Imus in the morning.
Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to talk to you all about two recent celebrity passings, one that just happened today and another that happened right after Christmas. So the first person we're going to give an obituary to is David Stern, followed by Don Imus. So first of all, we're going to talk about Mr. David Stern, the former commissioner of the National Basketball Association, best known as the NBA, has passed at the age of 77. So here is a little bit of a tidbit of what he looked like. And this article is written by Jason Owens of Yahoo Sports. Former NBA Commissioner David Stern has passed away at the age of 77. Stern died today, the league announced, after suffering a brain hemorrhage back on December 12th that required emergency surgery. A titan of sports leadership, Stern took over as NBA commissioner in 1984 and oversaw the growth of the league, which was a struggling entity, to an international powerhouse. When Stern took office, NBA playoff games were regularly broadcast on tape delay on CBS. By the time he had handed the reins to his deputy, Adam Silver, in 2014, 30 years to the day after he took over, NBA basketball as a spectator sport was an international powerhouse with fans across the globe. Stern's tenure coincided with the rise of the Larry Bird Magic Johnson rivalry that saw the Boston Celtics and Los Angeles Lakers win a combined 8 straight championships between the two superstars from 1980 to 1988. Stern took office the same year as the Chicago Bulls drafted Michael Jordan, who would take over from Bird and Johnson as the face of the league and became a global icon as he won 6 NBA titles. Here's how the NBA expanded under Commissioner Stern. Commissioner Stern's NBA seized on the popularity of those outsized players and personalities, expanding from 23 teams to 30 under his watch. The late 1980s saw the league expand into 4 new markets, with the Miami Heat and Charlotte Hornets joining the NBA in 1988 and the Orlando Magic and Minnesota Timberwolves coming into existence in 1989. So here's another picture of David Stern right here. By the time Stern retired, the Memphis Grizzlies, Toronto Raptors, and New Orleans Pelicans had also spawned through expansion and franchise movement. A global league. As the NBA grew domestically under Stern, the league set footprints around the world with offices in Hong Kong, Johannesburg, Beijing, Mumbai, and London, among other international cities. Stern aided the global growth of the league by helping organize the assembly of the Dream Team, the 1992 USA basketball team led by Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson, that took the Olympics by storm and became an international sensation. The United States voted against allowing professionals to play in the Olympics in 1989, but when the international community overwhelmingly approved the shift from amateurs, Stern and the NBA embraced it. Stern told GQ magazine in 2012, "I think the point was the world of basketball invited the NBA to join it, and we said yes. And they have profited greatly from it, as have we, as has the overall sport of basketball." As the league looked outward, international players like Hakeem Olajuwon, Dirk Nowitzki, and Yao Ming became stars in the NBA, further cementing its status as a global league. Birth for the draft lottery. Before Stern set his sights on global growth, he had big ideas about how teams should be built. During Stern's second year in office, the league implemented one of the most exciting and controversial systems in sports, the draft lottery. In an effort to deter your tanking, Stern's NBA set up a literal lottery to determine which teams would receive the top selections in the draft. The initial year of the lottery in 1985 gave birth to one of the greatest conspiracies in American sports, when the New York Knicks won the right to draft Georgetown center Patrick Ewing, who would go on to play for the Dream Team and become a first-ballot Hall of Famer. The center, desperate Knicks, won the lottery in the NBA's largest market, birthed conspiracies that Stern rigged the game in New York's favor. In some circles, the conspiracy lives on more than 3 decades later. Difficulties under David Stern. Stern also oversaw difficult times, genuine controversy, and tragedy during his tenure. Len Bias died of a cocaine overdose in 1986, days after the Boston Celtics made him the number 2 pick in the draft out of Maryland. In 1991, Johnson made the shocking announcement that he was retiring from the Lakers after he tested HIV positive. At that point in time, the diagnosis was widely used as a death sentence. But Mr. Johnson lives on and thrives to this day, which Magic Johnson, we know what he does right now. He's a businessman in California. So, labor strife. The NBA saw 2 significant instances of labor strife under David Stern, with lockouts back in 1999 and 2011 that threatened to drive fans away from the game. The league lost regular season games during both lockouts. Gambling scandal. In 2007, a gambling scandal centered around referee Tim Donaghy threatened the integrity of the game. Long-held fringe beliefs that the league was rigged were given legitimate weight when reports were pointed to Donaghy making calls to influence point spreads on games he had gambled on. Donaghy eventually pled guilty to 2 conspiracy charges related to the scandal. It was sentenced to 15 months in prison. Hornets controversy. The NBA also made the unorthodox decision to buy the then New Orleans Hornets in 2010 in an effort to keep the team in the city. Stern's decision to reject the trade of Chris Paul to the Lakers was the league owned to the Hornets in 2011 and is a sore subject for Lakers fans to this day. Legacy of growth. But as each of these issues threatened to sanctity and popularity of the NBA, the league continued to grow strongly under Stern's steed. By the time he had seeded to power to silver in 2014, the NBA was thriving in a new player era led by LeBron James on the verge of the Golden State Warriors dynasty taking hold. Upon his retirement, Stern was immediately inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in 2014. The growth and overwhelmingly popularity of the NBA that came into existence under Stern's watch remains his legacy. David Stern is survived by his wife Diane and sons Eric and Andrew. Now, I quickly want to read this New York Times article I was taking a look at earlier because I found a way to get rid of the paywall. I'm not going to say how I did, but yeah, I'm looking for a part in the article about his early life. Here we go. Birth name David Joel Stern was born on September 22, 1942 in Manhattan to William and Anna Stern. His father ran Stern's Deli in Chelsea. David grew up in Teaneck and graduated from Rutgers University in 1963 before attending Columbia Law School. His affiliation with the NBA began in 1966 when, as a recent law school graduate, he was hired by Prosper Rose Gottsman-Hosen, the prominent New York law firm which represented the NBA. Among the cases Mr. Stern worked on was a landmark antitrust lawsuit brought against the league by Hall of Fame guard Oscar Robertson in 1970. Robertson sought to block a proposed merger with the ABA, better known as the American Basketball Association, and outlaw the so-called option clause, which tied players to their teams. The lawsuit ended in 1976 with a settlement that enabled the NBA to expand by adding the Denver Nuggets, Indiana Pacers, San Antonio Spurs, and New York Nets of the American Basketball Association, but only after allowing NBA players to become free agents for the first time. Mr. Stern grew up as a Knicks fan and attended games at Madison Square Garden with his father. Even though he didn't have a good record, they were my Knicks, he told the Times in 1983. He played the sport briefly in adulthood, saying, "Without most of his cartilage in my right knee from playing basketball without my firm's team in the New York Lawyers League." Alright, professional basketball lucked on the wane when Mr. Stern joined the NBA in 1978 as general counsel under Commissioner Larry O'Brien. The league was slipping into irrelevance. Several NBA Finals games from 1979 to 1981 were regulated to tape delay broadcast on CBS that began 11:30 Eastern Time. The league incurred further damage to its image after a report in the Los Angeles Times in 1980 estimated that 40 to 75% of its players used cocaine. In the ensuing 1980-81 season, 16 of 23 teams reportedly lost money. Alright, so, Mr. Stern was elevated to executive vice president in November 1980, negotiating a drug testing policy in 1983, making the NBA the first major sports league in North America to implement one. As soon as he became commissioner, the NBA sought to help disadvantaged small market franchises by adopting a salary cap of $3.6 million per team for the 1984-85 season, about $9 million in today's market. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to go further more into this article, but that's just a little bit of a background on Mr. David Stern, who, again, has passed at the age of 77 due to a brain cartilage. Now, as far as Don Imus, I'll go to his Wikipedia article for just a second to see if we do have a confirmed reason of death. So I'm just going to see if it's here. Alright. It says he passed from complications of lung disease. Okay, that's what it says. So let's just quickly read this article from The Hollywood Reporter. Don Imus, the legendary radio host best known for his radio show Imus in the Morning, passed away on December 27th at the age of 79. So it says he passed away last Friday at Baylor Scott and White Medical Center in College Station, Texas. Don Imus, the radio personality whose insult, humor, and savage comedy cultivated him to a long-lasting and controversial career, has died at the age of 79. His 3-hour program, Imus in the Morning, was widely popular, especially with the over 25 male demographic. Mr. Imus passed away Friday morning, December 27, 2019, at Baylor Scott and White Medical Center in College Station, Texas, after being hospitalized on Christmas Eve, a representative said. The cause of the death was not disclosed. Mike and the Mad Dog host Mike Francesa tweeted Friday, "Shocking news in the passing of my friend Don Imus. He will be remembered as one of the true giants in the history of radio." Morning Joe host Joe Scarborough added, "Morning Joe obviously owes its format to Don Imus. No one else could have gotten away with that much talk on cable news. Thanks for everything, Don." Morning Joe started as a fill-in for Imus in the Morning after Imus was fired from MSNBC in 2007 after making sexist comments regarding the Rutgers women's basketball team. Which is a true fact, I am saying that. And also they were racist remarks. Just saying. Yeah, CBS Radio and MSNBC then dropped the show in 2007. Imus was loved or hated for his caustic loudmouth, outspoken in the age of political correctness. He often coarse satire offended sensibilities. Yet his listeners included those whom he often ridiculed. His calling guests included President Bill Clinton, CBS Evening News host Dan Rather, Tim Russett, Bill Bradley, David Dinkins, Rudy Giuliani, 2 former mayors of New York City, by the way, and political analyst Jeff Greenfield, who once remarked, "He's out there talking the way most of us talk when we're not in public." And I'll mention, Imus was the reason why WFAN became so big here in New York, and he helped Mike Francesa and Christopher Russo become the names that they were. Mike, obviously, the way he ended up now, leaving FAN, and he's still going to be on the Fan, but he's moving to radio.com later this year. And, of course, Christopher Mad Dog Russo, who has a very successful satellite radio channel, Mad Dog Radio on Sirius XM 82, which I do listen to Christopher Russo to this day still on Sirius. So, here we go. He rebounded by signing a multi-year contract with the Fox Business Network in 2009 to simulcast Imus in the Morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Fox anchors did appear during the program. And this was the time also that 77 WABC here in New York brought him on to do the morning show. Mr. Imus openly had a lifelong addiction to drugs and alcohol. In 2009, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Imus was often compared to syndicated shock jock host Howard Stern, who also had a stint on, I'm going to say this correctly because I know I'm going to get this right, WNBC. See, there you go. WNBC, radio early in his career, and they frequently appeared on each other's shows. Although Imus could not match Stern's audiences in terms of numbers, advertisers were well aware of Imus' better educated and richer demographic, often preferring him. So, not going to get into more of the other stuff, but let's get into some philanthropy. He was an active philanthropist. Imus and his wife, DeAndre, founded the Imus Ranch in 1999, where each summer children with cancer could enjoy the outdoors. So, a little bit of a background. John Donald Imus Jr. was born on June 23rd, 1940 in Riverside, California. He was raised in Prescott, Arizona, with his family, where his family owned a large ranch. He dropped out of high school to join the Marines, and after basic training, was an engineer in the band. Not going to get into any more. He actually did try to become a musician, but he ended up being a DJ. Want to mention that Mr. Imus was hired by WNBC in 1971, lasting until 1988, where WFAN signed on the air. Don stayed on the air until 2007 after making the racist, sexist comments regarding the Rutgers women's basketball team. Was on WABC and then retired last year. So, also want to quickly mention, if you do want to pay your respects to Don Imus, the family's going to have a private service coming up in the coming days. I know this was from last week, but I had to read it because there were two notable celebrity deaths, and I wanted to get to that. You can also ask for donations to be made to the Imus Ranch Foundation. So you want to make donations to the Imus Ranch to help kids with cancer? You can do that. So once again, Don Imus has passed at 79 back on December 27th. And just today we lost NBA Commissioner David Stern. So to both men, to Don Imus and to David Stern, thank you for what you have done. David Stern for making the NBA the way it is now. And with Don Imus, again, without him, I don't think WFAN would have ever became number one. And I don't think without Don Imus, we wouldn't even have Mike Francesa and Chris Russo on the radio to this day. So, that is a big deal on that end for Don Imus. Both men are going to be missed very well, and I'm assuming within the next week, probably funeral arrangements are going to be made for both Don Imus and David Stern. So with that, thank you all for watching. Until the next one, please take care.